Vice Vera's not usually. I think we can start. They'll catch up with us. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And without her, we have no minutes. Okay, are we recording?
Recording in progress.
Good, good. Okay, I call to order the meeting of the Mansfield Planning and Zoning. Is my mic on? Yes, I think it is. Yeah, yeah, it's on. Call to order the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Mansfield, Connecticut on June 20th, 2023 at 6:02. Oh, closer? Okay. Oh, that's, yeah, much better, closer. Yeah, okay. Planning and Zoning, Mansfield, Connecticut, June 20th, 6:02 p.m. And members present are Aho, Accorsi, Cooley, Bertoni, Ross, Tomeko, and Wooch. Have some others arriving soon. Nevertheless, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, Ross, yeah, I got, oh, did I say for Tony? I did. Cooley. Okay. We have minutes from June 5th.
Accorsi moves to accept the minutes as written.
Moved by Corsi,
Bertoni will second.
second by Frattoni. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Passes unanimously. Larry, you with us? Can you hear us, Larry?
Larry?
I can see
I
him.
can see him.
I think
I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
Larry, try
Larry,
a different system for your speaker and your microphone. It's we got feedback. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, we have two public hearings tonight. First one is regarding the where is joining us virtually? There she is. Hi, Vera.
Yeah.
So we're joined by Vera Ward at 6:05 p.m. And we have two public hearings tonight. One of them is the special permit application of Yame Development LLC. And I understand this one's going to be continued, but we open it tonight. Okay. Okay. Okay, all right. Yep. So, yeah, so let's, I need to open it.
You need to open the hearing, and
Okay.
then I'll read the legal notice into the
Public hearing
record.
is opened at 6:06 p.m. Members present are Aho Akorsi, Cooley, Bertoni, Ross, Tomeko, and Wuch.
Great, I'm happy to read the legal notice. The following legal notice was published in the Willimantic Chronicle on Wednesday, June 7th, 2023, and Thursday, June 15th, 2023. The Mansfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearing on Tuesday, June 20th via hybrid meeting to hear comments regarding the following application. 6:00 p.m., special permit application of Yame Development LLC, applicant owner, for a mixed-use development known as the Villages at Four Corners and located at 1659 Storrs Road and 625 Middle Turnpike. Assessors parcel IDs 8.15.12 and 8.15.11, PZC file 1379. Information on how to participate in the public hearing will be included in the meeting agenda, available at least 48 hours prior to the hearing in the town's agenda center, www.mansfieldct.gov/agenda center. No information from the public shall be received after the close of public hearings. Additional information regarding this application is available in the Mansfield Planning Office, AP Beck Municipal Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, Mansfield, CT 06268, or by emailing planzonedept@mansfieldct.org. Paul Aho Chair, Luann Cooley Secretary.
Okay, so
So-
the hearing is open, but we have a motion to continue it.
Yes, the applicants, in your packet, they have have consented to extensions. However, they are within the statutory timeframe right now.
Okay. Would someone like to put that motion forward? Okay, thank
I move to continue the public hearing on the special permit application of Yame Development LLC, applicant owner, for a mixed-use development known as the Villages at Four Corners and located at 1659 Storrs Road and 625 Middle Turnpike. Assessor's parcel IDs 8.15.12 and 8.15.11. PZZ file number 1379. The Planning and Zoning Commission's August 7th, 2023 regular meeting at 6:10 p.m. in the council chamber, AP Beck Municipal Building, 7 South Eagleville Road.
4 South Eagleville Road.
Or what did I say?
Yes, 7.
4 South Eagleville Road. Oop.
Moved by Akorsi,
Which was second?
second by Wuch. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Except Larry still looks puzzled. Having trouble. Okay, all right. So that public hearing is continued, and we move along to the second public hearing. The one for CMC Stores SPV LLC and OZ 17 Cedar Swamp LLC. That public hearing is open at 6:09 p.m. Members present are Aho Akorsi, Cooley, Fertoni, Ross, Tomeko, and Wuch. Have a similar.
Yes, so the following notice was published in the Willimantic Chronicle on Wednesday, June 7th, 2023, and Thursday, June 15th, 2023. The Mansfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearing on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, via hybrid meeting to hear comments regarding the following application. 6:10 p.m. So, Mr. Chair, it is exactly 6:10
Oh, right,
p.m.
okay, then, right.
So can we note for the record that okay, great. The special permit application of CMC Stores SPV LLC and BPOZ 17 Cedar Swamp LLC, applicant's owner, for a multifamily residential community at 497 Middle Turnpike, assessors parcel ID 8.14.19 and 17 Cedar Swamp Road, assessors parcel ID 8.14.18, and 3 parcels fronting on Cedar Swamp Road, assessors parcel IDs 8.14.14-2, 8.14.14-3, and 8.14.14-4, PZC file number P1380. Information on how to participate in the public hearing will be included in the meeting agenda, available at least 48 hours prior to the hearing in the town's agenda center, www.mansfieldct.gov/agenda center. No information from the public shall be received after the close of the public hearing. Additional information regarding this application is available in the Mansfield Planning Office, AP Beck Municipal Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, Mansfield CT 06268, or by emailing planzonedept@mansfieldpt.org. Paul Aho, Chair, Luann Cooley, Secretary. Mr. Chair, would you like me to read the guidelines for
Yes,
the
please.
public hearing? So we're going to read some guidelines for tonight's public hearing. The purpose of tonight's public hearing is to receive relevant information about the proposed application from the public. Order and decorum shall be maintained at all times during the hearings. The Commission reserves the right to adjourn the hearing to another date and time if the discussion becomes unruly and unmanageable. Given the hybrid format, we ask that everyone bear with us if we encounter any glitches. If we are unable to overcome technical issues and/or the Commission is having difficulty understanding the information presented in this format, the hearing will be continued to another meeting. Order of presentations. First, there will be the applicant's presentation, then we will receive public comment. We will receive public comment from those in support of the application, those in opposition to the application, and then those who are undetermined or would like additional information or clarification. When addressing the Commission, state your name and address and any party, group, or organization you represent, if any, for the record before beginning your comments. Limit your comments to the subject of the public hearing. Avoid repetition where possible. Summarize reports and letters that are submitted to the Commission rather than reading them aloud, as all written information is copied and distributed to members. Do not attempt to engage in a dialogue with the members of the Commission, staff, or any other parties in the hearing. Speak clearly to ensure your comments are audible to members of the public watching from home and are recorded. Commission members may ask questions of anyone providing testimony, but will not discuss the relative merits of the application until the hearing is closed. Failure to abide by these policies and procedures may result in a muting of your microphone or dismissal from the hearing. Participation instructions. Instructions on how to participate in the public hearing are listed on the agenda. For those who would like to call in, please call 1-929-205-6099 and enter the following meeting ID, 876-7719-0472, and the following passcode, 150834. Again, you would call in 1-929-205-6099, enter the following meeting ID, 876-7719-0472, and the following passcode, 150834. If you encounter any problems calling into the hearing, please call 860-429-3330 and a staff member will assist you. Mr. Chair, I did want to note for the record that we have received several communications, did republish the packet at 3 p.m. and from the public prior to that time. Sandy, have we received anything new from the public? Just as a note, communications from the public include an email dated 6/19/2023 from G. DeMeo, an email from B. Scott dated 6/20/23, an email from M. Buck dated 6/20/23, and an email from John Thylander dated 6/20/23. I also want to note that I did upload my staff report along with that, as well as several items that are listed on the revised agenda from both the applicant, their response to peer reviewers, a number of different figures and reports. So,
Thank you. So
welcome.
now it's the applicant's turn.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Ward here. Am I, technical question, am I seated?
you are seated. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I have to recuse myself from doing any voting.
Okay.
I'm in a butter.
Yes, Can you just drag them and then off the screen because we have another screen there? Perfect. Oh,
That
just up a
works.
little more. You got this? Perfect.
All right.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and commission members. I am Attorney Joe Williams. I'm a land use attorney and partner in the law firm of Shipman and Goodwin at One Constitution Plaza in Hartford. And it is good to see all of you in the room again. It's been a while. And those of you on the screen as well. And it's my honor to be here representing your applicants this evening for the proposed multifamily development at 497 Middle Turnpike and neighboring parcels. So this is our agenda for our presentation this evening. We promise not to take an hour on each topic, and we promise not to be unruly. But we will try to follow a logical format, tell you about the property and its history, then get into the engineering and the site layout, the building architecture, landscape architecture, present our traffic study, and then I will close it out talking about affordable housing and zoning compliance. So with me to my left is your applicant and representative of the property owner. This is Jacob Entel with CMC Stores, SPV LLC, and his partner Chalk Lee should be in the meeting as well. Their operating company is STC NextGen. Oh, that was fast. Welcome. Could I just pause and ask here if our presenters are invited into the meeting, or do they need to be so they can? Okay, good. Because we'll. Yeah. Good. It'll be Chalk Lee, Tim O'Neill, Maximo Polanco, Jeff Smith, and Kate Throckmorton. Okay, great. So that's the team and the rough order that you'll hear from this evening. I'll come back in a little while after Jacob takes the next few topics.
I think Chuck is Chuck on
Sure.
the screen?
Can everyone hear me?
Okay. Yep.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can hear
great.
you.
Great. Hi everyone. Thank you again for taking the time. I'm glad to be back in front of the commission here again. We've been working over the years, and I'm sure everyone is quite familiar with our property at this point, located at 497 Middle Turnpike. On this screen, you'll see our property, all the parcels that we own as it relates to this application are highlighted there in yellow in the center. The property is in close proximity to the Four Corners. It has water and sewer access, and what we're trying to do here today is to focus on the redevelopment of the previously disturbed areas on this property. on the, but also the total acreage for this parcel, all the parcels we have is about 63 acres. So Jacob, if you don't mind swapping to the next slide. Okay. So just a little background on the history of this property. The earliest building or site improvement that was created on this property was a retail store that I'm sure many of you have driven by on Middle Turnpike. It was constructed in the late 1920s and then followed by a par 3 golf course and the restaurant building in the late 1990s. The buildings have been vacant and have been in disrepair for over a decade, from my understanding. And so, as you'll see in some of these following slides, the current state of these buildings could use a lot of attention, and we'd love to be able to turn that into something that's usable and beneficial to the town. 2016 and 2017, this is when we first had conversations with the town talking about this property. And at the time, it was with Linda Painter, who provided a lot of very helpful feedback. And it was during the time at which Mansfield Connecticut was rewriting a lot of the zoning code, which we've been quite familiar with through 2017. And over the 4 years of 2018 and 2022, that's when we started getting to work with multiple zoning text amendments, as many of you can recall. These text amendments were to accommodate some of the feedback and different changes and designs that the town had wanted to see over the years. And what we're proposing here tonight is a culmination of multiple years of site plan reviews, pre-application meetings, discussion with town staff, and want to say, you know, it's been a great ride to be able to put together something that incorporates all of the feedback that we've got through the years, and hopefully this is meeting the objectives of Mansfield and its residents. And so where we are today, we had gone through the inland wetlands approval process. We were approved on March 6, 2023, and we have now gone through the special permit technical peer review process as well. As you'll hear later in the evening, there are additional feedback that we can further elaborate on and make revisions to that can further get us closer to what would make everyone happy with our project here. Other meetings that we've had with town agencies, Water System Advisory Committee, Affordable Housing Committee, we are having affordable housing units provided here as part of our project. The Design Committee, who's looked at all of our layouts and exterior facades from an architectural standpoint. We've met with the Mansfield Economic Development Corporation to talk about the economic benefits that this project could bring to the town of Mansfield for the long term. We've talked to Recycling and Waste Management Coordinator, which we are in compliance with all the different recommendations provided. And the other agency was the Traffic Authority, which we have spoken to as well, and keeping in mind that the Mansfield Traffic Authority, while the comments have been received and incorporated, there will be further review by the Connecticut Department of Transportation, as well as we are proposing a crosswalk across Middle Turnpike here, which is a state road. And so this is all to say that there's been quite extensive levels of review at multiple agencies throughout this multi-year process. And we really hope today that our work here reflects everything that we've heard over the years. With that, I'll pass it back to Jacob and get into the design.
Thanks, Chuck. So as Chuck said, we have, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So these are recent pictures we took at the site. This is the retail building that Chuck is referring to. It's dilapidated. As you can see, it's what everyone who drives on Route 44 sees today. In the back of the site, or just a little northwest of it, you can also see from the road, you have the old clubhouse or restaurant that used to be there. There's also a maintenance shed that exists. There's the man-made pond was built by the golf course, as well as cracked pavement, and it's It's amazing how fast a golf course can deteriorate over time if it's not kept up. This is a rendering of our total site. So in the blue, you have our property line at 63.69 acres. In the top portion, in yellow, everything to the north is land that we are deeding, town or a related third party that's designated by the town. In the middle, you have town land there. It's a little over 6 acres. So the idea was to combine the deeded land with the town land to create one large parcel. And this is also a recommendation of the Parks Committee when we walked. In the upper right, in the northeast portion, you see a strip there, and that is an easement that we've talked to Jennifer about and town attorney, and we understand that that is needed to provide access to that back parcel, and we are amenable to that. So in total, between the deeded open space, which is 25.48 acres, and the town land, which is a little over 6, there's about 32 acres in total for the use of residents of Mansfield. And there's walking trails back there, and we have a slide on that as well. We tried really hard to keep our development to the southern portion of the site. We wanted to be able to preserve as much open space as possible. We're preserving over 2.4 million square feet of open space here. We're around 13.75, or actually a little less, of impervious site coverage. We're zoned RAR 90, which permits this density as well. So this is more information on the deeded land, 25.48 acres, as I mentioned. That back portion of the site. This is our proposed site plan, so we can break it down in a front, middle, and back section. We have 262 dwellings, 261 proposed new apartments, and then we also have 17 Cedar Swamp Road, which is a single-family home. So again, we were constrained by wetlands and tried to only build on the previously disturbed golf course. Really important to us. So we've come to this layout. It's been reworked many times over the years, and we have a mix. We have 3 different building types. We have apartment-style buildings, we have mansion-style buildings, and we have townhomes. I'll get into detail later, but the idea here is that we can appeal to a wide demographic. We have a lot of different unit types, and we want to be able to focus on whoever wants to live in Mansfield. We also have 52 affordable and workforce housing units. In the front portion, you can also see we have resident amenity space here. We have 2 patios, grills, lounge seating, and other outdoor amenities. Games. In the back portion here, we have another patio and green space, and we have I'll show you on the landscape plan, but we are preserving this pond and improving it. We have green space here with a walking path, and we also have a fenced dog run. Here's a rendering from Route 44. If you can see here, this is the front of our site. So this is building 100. This is building 200. There's existing mature, dense trees in this section of the property right now. This is where the main entrance will be. On this corner is where the resident amenity space is. We have about 6,000 square feet of resident amenity space. We have a co-working lounge, a fitness center, entertainment lounge, package room with cold storage, and mail rooms in this area. This is a apartment style building here, and this is the mansion style building. This is the back section of the site. So this is the pond that we're improving. This is our townhome. So townhomes are 3 stories, and they all have a private roof deck. So we're putting benches, we're putting a walking trail, which isn't shown in this rendering. And there is a good amount of green space for people to hang out. This is a rendering showing the back portion, or showing the outdoor amenity space with the 2 patios with the grills and seating. We want to. It looks a lot smaller on a 2D plan. We wanted to be able to show this as 3D. This is a mansion-style apartment unit. So essentially, it's supposed to look like one single-family home, but it has 17 different units. Now I will turn it off to Tim O'Neill from Langen Engineering. Tim, are you there?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jacob. And for the record, my name is Tim O'Neill with Langen Engineering. I'm a licensed professional in the state of Connecticut. And just before we jump into the site civil discussion about stormwater and site layout, I'd just like to remind everyone that this project has gone through the inland wetland approval process, and we've received approval from the committee and the third-party peer reviewer through that process. What we're seeing here is a map of the existing watersheds on the site as it exists today. You'll see that there's 4 main watersheds, A, B, C, and D. All of these watersheds eventually make their way back down to the large western wetland area at the bottom of the slope to the left of the screen here. You'll also notice that there's a subwatershed A3 that actually collects runoff from Cedar Swamp Road. It is collected into catch basins and conveyed via below ground pipe network through our private development and discharged into an on-site wetland located in subwatershed A1. It's also important to note here that the existing site does not have any existing stormwater infrastructure, with the exception of a few pipe runs that we just discussed in watershed A1 and A2, and the existence of a man-made irrigation pond located in subwatershed C1-A. That irrigation pond was never intended for stormwater attenuation or improvement. It was strictly placed for irrigation, and it's in a bit of a decayed state. And our application will actually propose to improve that, which we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later on. And Jacob, if you could flip, would be great. Here we're seeing a zoom out again of the entire 64-acre parcel. We've highlighted the extensive wetland systems that are located on the property. We have roughly 22 acres of wetland on the overall 64-acre parcel. The yellow areas identify the 150-foot upland review area associated with each of the wetlands. And you'll notice that our proposed development is screened in black in the, again, bottom right-hand 15 acres of the development, majority proposed on previously disturbed land. You'll also notice that our concentration of the development is located outside of those 150-foot buffer regions where practical, and we have very minimal direct impacts to the wetlands. In fact, our only direct impact is at the outlet of that man-made pond that we discussed on the last slide. That pond outlet control structure isn't functioning well, and it's releasing water at uncontrolled rates. And there's been known to have some issues with stable water elevations in there. Our proposed project will rebuild that outlet control structure, contribute more water to it, and help develop a healthier ecosystem and habitat surrounding that wetland in the proposed condition here. And here you can see our proposed watershed design. You can see that we are maintaining those 4 major watersheds and discharging to the same point discharge throughout the site. Again, all watersheds make their way back down to that lower western wetland region. The proposed stormwater management system provides very high levels of attenuation, infiltration for groundwater recharge, and stormwater quality. There are 2 points on the attenuation that I would like to make quickly. The town regulation states that the 2-year rain event in the proposed condition produces flow rates that should be 50% of the existing 2-year event flow rates, or be reduced to match the 1-year existing flow rates. And there's a stipulation in the regulation that allows the commission to deem this criteria impractical under certain situations. And we have identified 2 watersheds here that we believe fit that criteria. The first would be watershed D, located at the northern region of the plan here. Watershed D is being reduced by approximately 10% in the proposed condition. And the reason that we aren't providing the 50% reduction is that it would require the installation of additional attenuation features or stormwater management features that would push out our limited disturbance and further impact the well-established wooded area abutting it, or even create additional direct wetland impacts. So again, this has been reviewed through the Inland Wetland Agency and seen acceptable there. And then the second would be watershed A. Again, we had discussed that subwatershed A3 that is collecting runoff from Cedar Swamp Road right-of-way. Those flows are collected in the public right-of-way and piped through the private property and discharged through the same outlet control structure. There are very high flows coming from that watershed A3, making it difficult to control and attenuate flows coming from off-site public property through the site. However, we are still proposing to reduce the flows in watershed A by around 30%. So again, we are asking the committee to identify these as impractical for those two watersheds only, and the rest of the application meets the criteria set forth in the base regulations for the proposed design. And then moving into the stormwater management system. This stormwater management system achieves a very high level of performance, and in many cases, we're actually exceeding the town and state requirements under many of the criteria. We have high level of protection to the wetlands. We are, again, working in very close proximity to some of these wetlands, and we have designed our site to be condensed and as far away from these regions as we can, but we wanted to ensure that we are providing very high levels of water quality treatment, attenuation, infiltration, groundwater recharge, and water cooling effects and benefits to the environment around it. There are several features installed throughout the site, and many of the features many of the watersheds run through multiple treatment features before they actually make their way and discharge into the wetland features themselves. We also have velocity dissipating features at the outlets of all of these discharge locations, which means that we're not creating point discharges that will scour and create sediment transport into these wetland environments to potentially harm them. So our robust stormwater management system here has really been designed to provide an extremely high level of protection to the surrounding sensitive areas before water is discharging to the site. And it is certainly a step up from the previous condition where we had no stormwater management or attenuation or water quality features included. There's also, one more point on this one. There's also been a stormwater quality and operation manual developed for the stormwater management report. Each one of these features highlighted on the map to the left here includes a section for regular maintenance, inspection, and operation throughout the site. And as part of the inland wetland approval process, there will be semi-annually reports that are submitted to the town and an agreement that will be put in place for the maintenance and operation of these systems, as well as general site maintenance, including trash cleanup and things like that, to make sure that it doesn't wash downstream into the sensitive areas here. Then moving into the site plan. And here I just want to talk about a little bit of the proposed layout and design. What you're seeing here is a colorized site plan version of the site layout. There are two access points to the site. The main would be a split driveway connection down to Middle Turnpike. This is where all of the daily activity at the site will be taking place, which will keep traffic on the main road and out of the smaller local collector roads through neighborhoods such as Cedar Swamp Road. The second would be the maintenance and emergency access gravel access road that goes up to the north and connects over to Cedar Swamp Road just off the page. This access road, again, is reserved only for maintenance and emergency vehicles. There are actually two swing locked gates at either end of the gravel driveway to ensure that no unauthorized access is being used on that roadway in that location. You can see the vehicular and pedestrian routing throughout the site here to provide access to each of the buildings. The pedestrian connections are providing access from each building to the amenity space, the trash and maintenance enclosures, as well as a pedestrian connection down along Middle Turnpike. There is a proposed pedestrian crossing that will connect to the multi-use trail on the south side of Middle Turnpike. We'll have more on that a little bit later, but that connection will also provide access to a public transit stop that is located several hundred feet to the south along Birch Road. To recap the zoning here, we are located in the R90 zone where residential is allowable use. We have met and exceeded all of the required yard setbacks throughout the site. We are requesting an increase from 35 feet to 45 feet in the maximum building height, which is allowable under Article 10B.10A.1, and the commission is able to determine that at the special public hearings or through the special permit application process. We are also providing, again, a significant amount of open space in the proposed application. The requirement is 600 square feet of open space is required per unit, which equates to 157,200 square feet of open space as a base requirement. Our application is providing over 2.4 million square feet of open space, or roughly 55.9 acres of open space. Again, we are deeding approximately 40% of the overall project area to the town in the northern section, as we've seen before. That equates to over 25 acres of property. And the maximum residential density for the entire 64-acre property is a maximum allowable of 263 units. The proposed design proposes the construction of 261 new units and an existing to remain residential unit located at 17 Cedar Swamp, located on the right side of the page and screened in there in orange. So we are just about at our maximum build out for the entire 64 parcel property here, which means we need to keep all of the land as a single application here, and we won't be chopping off sections of the lot for the development, and there's no future plans for build out of any of the northern parcels. To discuss the on-site parking briefly, we have ADA spots located throughout the site, located in regions where they are connected to ADA accessible routes to ADA units. There are 20 electric vehicle charging stalls located throughout the site. They're separated into 3 separate banks. The first bank servicing the southern region, the second bank servicing the central region, and the third bank servicing the northern region. There's a required 1.5 parking stalls per unit, plus 2 existing parking stalls, plus 2 additional parking stalls for the existing to remain Cedar Swamp unit, which would put our minimum required parking at a total of 394 parking stalls. The application is requesting the 5% parking reduction for the long-term bike parking credit, which brings the minimum parking requirement down to 375 stalls. The application is providing 379 car parking stalls through surface parking and through garage parking. There are 9 garage stalls located in each of the 3 mansion-style buildings. That'd be 2 in the southern and 1 in the northern location. And in addition to that, there is required bike parking on site at a rate of 0.5 bike stalls per bed. That would equate to a minimum requirement of 226 minimum bike parking stalls. The application is currently proposing 228, split between short and long-term parking. The ratio is approximately 10% short-term parking, which would be your typical bike racks exposed to the elements, and the remaining 90% would be long-term bike parking, which requires a covered condition and multiple points of locking. There are bike rooms proposed in each of the mansion-style buildings as well that have a capacity of 20 bikes. There's 1 long-term bike stall per garage bay, which allows the mansion styles to provide 29 long-term bike parking stalls per building. The rest of the long-term parking is provided through standalone structures that are scattered throughout the proposed development and located in convenient locations based on living density and higher units of bike parking to provide access to those. And another thing you'll see here is the existing wooded scenario and setbacks from our direct abutters along Cedar Swamp Road. These wooded areas to remain are going to provide a significant visual buffer from each of those property. And another aspect to this specific site is the topography. We know that there's a pretty significant grade change going from the east to the west, which actually helps provides additional screening for our abutting neighbors here. So site section view A is a cross section cut from the west to the east through the northern section. And we actually are showing the number 53 Cedar Swamp Road residential unit and right up to the public right of way there. And as you move your way down the hill, you can see there's several hundred feet of existing well-established wooded area in between the abutter and the proposed development that's located around station 550. In addition, and go back 1 second there. And in addition to the existing wooded buffer, we have proposed landscaping, which we'll get into, and then the elevation difference. You can see that the residential abutter is actually above the proposed roof line of the buildings in the northern portion. So someone standing in their windows, even without any of the existing trees immediately on their property, is going to have very good screening from the proposed property below. And then moving on to section B, which shows our cross section to our next closest abutter on Cedar Swamp Road. Again, we have a lot of the same similar scenarios here with the existing wooded areas to remain, providing visual screening, and the elevated existing residential home above the proposed property located at a lower elevation, several hundred feet to the west. And we'll move into a bit of a discussion on utilities. We have been in contact with all service providers, and we have confirmed that service will be available to the site. For the sewer capacity, there's an existing town-owned sewer network located at the intersection of Middle Turnpike and Cedar Swamp Road that our proposed development will be tying a gravity line into. The western 2/3 of the property discharged by gravity to an on-site private lift station. From that lift station, effluent is pumped to the east and discharged again to an on-site private gravity system where it will continue to the south and east and join into the public town system and continue on its way from there. The water service will be provided by CT Water. This will require a roughly 750 linear foot water main extension for a 12-inch water main that's located just to the east of the property past the Cedar Swamp Brook and Middle Turnpike crossing. We have confirmed with the CT Water company that they do have capacity, and they have deemed that the extension to the property for service is appropriate for this application. We have also been in contact with Connecticut Natural Gas to provide gas to the site. And this is currently an ongoing conversation, but preliminary designs are in the work to extend service to the site and provide distribution on the private property itself. Eversource has also been contacted and is able to provide service to the site. They are also involved in the utility relocation for the on-site existing cell phone tower to remain. The cell tower is located in the center of the property, and on this map you can see it at the very northern extent of the proposed development abutting the town-owned property in the center. And if you could swap to the next page. With the cell phone tower to remain, we will need to relocate the current below-grade infrastructure, and the easements granted to utility companies. We'll be demolishing and relocating the easement and below-grade infrastructure from the highlighted existing yellow easements that go down and tie into the network along Middle Turnpike to the magenta area. The infrastructure will all be completely below ground and below the 20-foot wide maintenance and emergency access easement up to Cedar Swamp Road, where we will tie into the utilities along that right of way there. And before we move into the, oh, that's okay. You can, yep, next slide here. There we go. I'd just like to reiterate that the soil erosion and sediment control plans, again, were reviewed under the inland wetland application and peer review process that we currently have approvals for. We chose to go with a 3-phased soil erosion and sediment control plan, understanding that we have a lot of sensitive wetlands on site. We wanted to be positive that we were providing a robust and comprehensive soil erosion and sediment control plan throughout construction to ensure that these sensitive areas are not impacted. In phase one, the contractor will come in and install all of the perimeter controls, and you can see that there are more robust controls in close proximity to wetland areas. These would consist of compost filter tube berms and silt fences rather than just your standard silt fence. Those are in blue. We have a few discrete areas where we are also adding in hay bales for a more structural barrier where steep slopes exist. We have sediment traps and basins to divert runoff to for settlement time before eventually discharging to the wetlands themselves. And in phase one, you could expect work such as clearing, grubbing, and construction staging, but before any work is to perform, these perimeter controls and sediment erosion control features will be installed. You'll also see that there's a phase 1A insert, and that is because the underground infrastructure for the cell phone tower needs to be installed immediately so that we can get the disconnect and reconnection with low service interruptions and to progress the design of that early on in the construction. Moving into phase 2, we'll see that the building pads are now reflected and some of the diversion berms and swales have been added in with steep slope blankets as mass earthwork activities are taking place. Building pad preparation is undergone, and the beginnings of the stormwater and utility trenching and installation continues. And moving into phase 3, you can see the project here is nearing completion. At this point, all of the below grade stormwater management infrastructure has been installed throughout the entire process. There are operations put in place to ensure that negative impacts won't occur to the stormwater maintenance facilities throughout construction. You'll also see that we have proposed inlet protection throughout construction. All erosion and sediment control features are to remain on site and installed until the site has been deemed to reach full stability. And the inland wetlands approval included multiple conditions to ensure that this was all recorded and inspected appropriately. This includes soil erosion and sediment control inspectors on a weekly basis or after significant rainfall events. This includes an environmental monitor to ensure that steep vegetative slopes are taken correctly. There's a construction sequencing and phasing plan that is to be developed and submitted to the town for approval prior to construction. The stormwater maintenance agreement is also going to be submitted for approval and agreement with the town. And in addition to that, we have 2 sets of placards that will be installed on site. There are no pesticides placards within 50 feet of all wetland areas on site, as well as wetland identifier placards that will specify no dumping and placed along the limits of the wetland in the area as well. And moving on to the next slide. Here again, we can see the area to be deeded in the northern parcel, roughly 25 acres, shaded in gray. We also have the existing hiking trails that are located in those northern regions and the existing hiking trails that cross over into the town-owned property known as parcel 14-OP. Throughout our conversations with the various committees and the town staff, there was concern about access to the site, and I just wanted to point out the driveway access easement that is in place and in favor of parcel 14-OP that grants vehicular access down along that yellow highlighted area and into the town-owned property. And from there, improvements can be made to just parking lots and interconnecting hiking trails and things onto the deeded property here. All right. And then before I turn it over, I'd just like to give a quick comparison Yeah, here we go. A quick comparison to where our original application to the inland wetlands back in 2021 started and where we've ended up to the application before you today. Our most notable features are the significantly increased buffer areas between our sensitive areas such as wetlands and our neighboring property lines. And you'll also see a significant reduction in proposed retaining wall height throughout the entire western face of the proposed development, the most significant one being a reduction from approximately a 40-foot retaining wall down to a 20-foot retaining wall to help and work with the topography of the existing site and respond to some of the comments that we've received from the town. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Jacob.
All right. Funner stuff. So the goal here is to create a community. You may ask, why do we have 3 separate building types? One, it's been from feedback over the last 5 years on what the town would like to see, which is more middle density housing. And the second is we felt doing this properly, using cohesive elements and designs and pictures and windows and whatnot, we were able to create a community within a community, right? So you look at a lot of multifamily buildings. The one across the street over there, all the buildings look exactly the same, pretty much. There's no distinctive characters. So here we want to be able to provide 3 different types of building types, which will enhance the feeling of a community. As I mentioned before, we have 3 separate building styles. We have apartment style buildings, which you can see on top. These are 3-story buildings, elevators, double loaded corridors, maybe fit somebody who wants a more social aspect, wants neighbors in close proximity. It also allows us to have a more efficient building, which reduces our building footprint and impervious surface area. Next, we have 3-story, 3-bedroom townhomes. You can see they all have separate entrances, and they all have this nice private roof deck. Maybe this is ideal for a family, someone who wants privacy, someone wants to be have more space. Next, we have mansion style. So I believe we're the only builders in town proposing this style. They're 2.5 stories. The intention is for this building to look like a single family home. However, there are 17 units in each building. There's also a mix of units. We have loft units, we have offices, we have units with direct garage access, private garages. So we're really excited about being able to bring this to life. The unit mix is spread equally here between studios, 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms, pretty much. So 24.5% studios, 24.5% 1 bedrooms, 26.5% 2 bedrooms, and about 24.5% 3 bedrooms. So we wanted to create as diverse as a mix as possible. We have 262 dwellings in total, 52 of them which are affordable and workforce. So there's 20% affordable and workforce, 15% are affordable, 5% are workforce. We have 21 different layouts. So again, we're trying to cater to as many different residents as possible. In addition, 50% of our homes have private outdoor spaces. And compared to existing multifamily options and ones that are being proposed, we're on average 25% larger for unit types, which hopefully helps attract young professionals and families, retirees, everyone's of every age. I'm going to pass it off to our architect, Jeff Smith from Niles Bolton, to go through the floor plans.
Evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Smith. I'm a Connecticut licensed architect with Niles Bolton Associates. As Jacob mentioned, one of the goals of this project was to provide a variety of building types residents seeking different types of homes. We have conventional apartment flats, individual townhouses, mansion-style units, where the apartments kind of work together like a three-dimensional puzzle to create a large single-family home. For the next few slides, I'll show you a couple of examples of each of these different types. On the screen now is some of our studio units, which are in the 3 traditional apartment buildings. These units vary from just under 500 to about 580 square feet. All the homes meet the design guidelines and the zoning requirements for kitchen design, storage, ventilation, sunlight, and so forth. Next slide. So let's see, these are the ones. So the 1-bedroom units, hang on, here we go, are in these 1-bedroom units. Nope, I'm in the wrong one. You hopped a slide on me. Are in the apartment buildings 100, 600, and 1,000. These are examples of those. These would be in the traditional garden flats, if you will, the corridor style buildings. The color coding on these kind of works like this. The orange areas are areas that we're identifying as storage. The dark blue is outdoor space, and there's good outdoor space for the majority of the units, not all, but most. Light blue is where we calculate the countertop areas, and the green areas are the kitchen pantries. Again, this all relates to the Chapter 10 zoning requirements for different multifamily design minimum standards. As you can see from these, there's lots of different types of 1-bedrooms, lots of different types of kitchens, from a efficient galley kitchen to peninsula layouts, all the way to full islands with separate dining areas. So in the mansion style buildings, which are buildings 200, 700, and 900, we also have a couple of 1-bedroom units. These units, some of them have private garages dedicated to them. That's what you're seeing on the 2 images on the left. That's the MA1 unit, and its garage below. One of the private garages is associated with the floor plan above. On the right, the MA2 unit is a 3 unit. It only exists at the first level of the mansion style buildings, and it is kind of long and thin, but it does have windows and outdoor spaces at both ends. So a very unique condition there. Let's see. There are also 2-bedroom unit types in the mansion buildings. These are very generous in size, running 1,180 to almost 1,275 square feet. Both of these mansion-style 2-bedroom units are outside corner conditions, allowing for lots of windows. As 2-bedroom units, these units also qualify as family units, again, per the zoning ordinance. In fact, over 45% of our dwelling units qualify as family units. So next. Here's some examples of the 2-bedroom units in the traditional apartment buildings. There's a great variety within the apartment buildings, ranging from a very efficient, in the lower left-hand corner there, a very efficient 730 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, up to almost 1,200 square feet in the upper right-hand corner, the unit B1B. You'll see large living rooms, areas for dining, kitchen islands in many of the units, lots of storage. So next up, there are a handful, not too many. I think the total count is 11 3-bedroom apartments in the traditional apartment buildings. These homes are actually very large at 1,450 square feet, approximately. These are 3-bedroom, 3-bath apartments. And the idea here, again, they only occur on outside corners. We can get glass on 2 sides. We can get lots of openings into the living, dining, kitchen area. So these apartments should live very large. And then finally, Jacob mentioned the townhouse buildings. All of the townhouse buildings are back-to-back townhouses, 3 stories in height. They all are 3 bedrooms and 3.5 baths. The first level of each is all the living spaces, living room, dining, kitchen, and a powder room. On the second level, there are 2 roughly equal bedrooms with walk-in closets and their own private baths. On the top floor is the primary bedroom, as well as a large rooftop terrace, that area in blue there on the far right. At almost 1,700 square feet, this is the largest home, the largest type of apartment within this overall project. So hopefully, as you can see, there's quite a variety of building types and home types, which we hope will appeal to lots of different folks and help create a real community. As you saw in some of the renderings earlier, we'll use these building and unit type differences to create different building forms, which will provide us with, we think, great visual interest in the site. But what really pulls it all together is the landscape design, which Kate will review for you now.
Good evening. For the record, Kate Throckmorton, a licensed landscape architect and partner with Environmental Land Solutions with offices in Norwalk, Connecticut. This first slide highlights some of the design elements and goals that we created for the plan. They include native plants used throughout the site, making special attention to reestablish vegetative buffers around the perimeter, providing a variety of trees and shrubs throughout the site, and especially the stormwater basins that will tolerate the varying water conditions, minimizing lawn near wetlands, and incorporating new meadow areas, enhancing planting buffers around the existing pond. Right now it is occurring as just grass or golf turf, so that will be diminished. Creating outdoor spaces for the residents, naturalizing the landscape around the pond, which we just mentioned, and establishing a walking path throughout the site from Middle Turnpike all the way up to the open space at the north end. With that, we could go to the next slide. This provides you with a color rendering of the whole site. The landscape design plans emphasize again the use of native plants throughout the site. Shade trees are evenly distributed to adjacent paved areas to reduce thermal pollution, with a mix of understory trees and shrubs to provide seasonal variety throughout the site. We paid special attention to the wetland buffer areas and established new areas where we are disturbing in the vicinity of the buffers. We've also paid note to any of the development adjacent to existing roadways and provide multi-evergreen reestablishment of new buffers along those areas to provide visual separation from neighbors. The site plan includes a continuous pedestrian path, as noted before, throughout the site, and connections to the bike path across the street. The site entrance is designed as a boulevard entrance with a separate in and out driveway, shade trees and shrubs to visually soften the entrance and provide a inviting entrance. Also, to note a little more detail, there's several primary outdoor spaces developed that were formal and informal. The first is at the south area that Jacob was just highlighting, between Mansion Building 200 and 700. This provides 2 patios, outdoor living area, sidewalks, and defined with planted trees. The second formal area is in the north end between Townhouse 900 and Mansion 1100. A similar arrangement where we have one central patio area and then an adjacent lawn area for active play and informal community space. Then the third is a little bit different. It's the naturalization of the existing pond area. Right now, that exists in kind of a disrepair site, existing primarily with golf turf grass around the area. So we are going to repopulate that area with a significant amount of native vegetation, trees, shrubs, and meadow grasses to allow the reestablishment enhancement of the wetlands around the pond, provide help with water quality, but at the same time, creating meadows and walking paths throughout that area. So it provides a kind of a much more serene, passive area and quiet space for the residences. As I said, the walking path goes throughout the site, starting at Middle Turnpike. Primarily, there's many active concrete sidewalks that run along the driveway, but we also have a secondary walking path that goes around the pond that provides a much more quiet, peaceful area for passive recreation. And that also meets up with our new dog park at the northeast end. This also provides direct access to existing trails to the north of our site, where the existing trail comes out right near the cell tower. We're going to be picking that up and providing direct access with our existing walking paths. In addition, as it has been noted, there's a substantial portion that's going to remain in open space, and we're connecting all these paths to make sure that people have places to walk, not only immediately around the townhouses, but to connect to natural areas and beyond that extend to Cedar Swamp Road and to bike paths to the south. So with that, we can go to the lighting plan. The lighting plan was prepared to provide adequate lighting throughout the site for safety and comfort for pedestrians while maintaining uniformity of active lit areas. This is achieved by using 3 types of light. One is the Vega wall luminaires, which are used along the building entries and walls and sidewalks. That's in a downlight. The Kim Attitude post lights throughout the site. That's going to be a 14-foot tall post light. And then in addition, Hubble wall packs at the end of buildings to provide uniformity throughout the pedestrian areas. All the light fixtures are going to be LED luminaires with a warm color spectrum of 2700 to 3000 K. All of the lights, like I said, are going to be maximum height of 14 feet, which are all pedestrian friendly and pedestrian in scale. Together, these lights will provide an average of 1.27 foot candle for the entire site, and around the paved and walked areas, it will be 1.9 foot candles throughout the site, with a minimum of 1/2 foot candle for all bike storage areas. We did have one outstanding area that was highlighted, I think, in the last set of peer reviews, where we found one area that was below those levels, and we have added a double light fixture to that pole to be able to provide the minimum requirements and adequately light that whole area. And with that, I will turn it over to Jacob and then traffic.
Thanks, Kate. I believe Max is going to take traffic.
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Maximo Polanco from Langen Engineering, address 555 Longworth Drive in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm a licensed professional engineer, the state of Connecticut, and I've been the traffic engineer working on the project since the beginning. So for this project, we prepare a traffic impact study following Connecticut DOT standards, and we've demonstrated that the project or the existing roadway network has the capacity to accommodate the anticipated traffic from the proposed development. In the next couple of slides, I will go through with the proposed development and the process we went through in doing the traffic study. So as previously mentioned, the traffic study was done in accordance with CTDOT standards, which we evaluated the existing and future traffic conditions in the area with and without the proposed development, and analyze the impacts of the development. Based on our analysis, we demonstrated that the existing roadway network can accommodate the project. In addition to that, as previously mentioned by our team members, the project, because our proposed connection is to Middle Turnpike, which is within jurisdiction of CTDOT, will have to be reviewed by the Connecticut Department of Transportation, which has been submitted to them for review. In addition, the overall project, in addition to all the improvements that are being provided on site, we are also proposing a crosswalk along Middle Turnpike to provide pedestrian access to the existing shared use path located on the south side of Middle Turnpike. So to give you a brief summary of what is a traffic study and what is the process we went through, we basically collected data on March this year, 2023, on the 5 intersections shown here on this screen, which included Middle Turnpike at Birch Road, Middle Turnpike at Cedar Swamp, Middle Turnpike at Discovery Drive, Middle Turnpike at Storrs Road, and Storrs Road at Willington Hill Road. And with this, we evaluated what we call the existing conditions. In addition to this, we also collected what we call 72 hours bidirectional counts to understand what is the daily traffic that is traveling through Middle Turnpike and understand the speeds of the road. And with this collected data, we developed what we call future traffic volumes by growing this data to 2026 with a 1% growth rate. In addition to that growth rate that we estimated based on historical data, we also added traffic from 2 committed developments within our story area, and these were the standard or Four Corners mixed-use development at 1717 Storrs Road and the proposed mixed-use development at 625 Middle Turnpike. With this traffic, knowing the existing traffic and the future traffic, and approved developments, we create what we call the no-build traffic conditions, which is basically the future conditions without the project. After this, we determine what is the anticipated trip generation from our proposed development using the latest ITE trip generation manual, and added this trip generation from this specific development to what we are previously set to the no-build traffic condition to evaluate basically the future conditions with the traffic. And that's how we conducted, I would say, our traffic conditions for the future and analyze what were the impacts. So to briefly before we touch base on the results on the traffic study, we just want to briefly touch base on the property's access. So Jacob, if you can go to the next slide. As previously mentioned, we are proposing 2 access for the site. One access will be an emergency access only on Cedar Swamp Road, which will be gated to avoid any cut-through traffic and avoid heavy impacts to such a small road and low volume road as Cedar Swamp Road, and basically focusing all of our traffic to Middle Turnpike, which will provide a full access driveway as shown here on this small snip on the low side of the screen, which will be basically across Birch Road. And as shown here on the screen as well, the proposed crosswalk to the shared use path, which will be controlled with what we call rapid flashing beacons and proper signage to provide a safe crossing for pedestrians. So if we go to the next slide, as previously mentioned, we collected traffic data at each of these 5 locations that's shown here on the screen. And what is shown here on the screen is basically a comparison of the future condition without the development and the future conditions and the future condition with the development. So if looking basically intersection by intersection, and this is our analysis for the morning peak hour, at the intersection of Birch Road and Middle Turnpike, we expect an increase in average delay of 0.4 seconds. On Cedar Swamp Road, an increase of 0.3 seconds, an increase in average delay at Middle Turnpike and Discovery Drive of 0.2 seconds. At Middle Turnpike and Storrs Road, an increase of 1.7 seconds, and basically no increase at the intersections of Willington Hill Road and Storrs Road. And this will be the expected condition for the AM. If we go to the PM, it is basically the same, minimal impacts with just an increase in delay on Birch Road of 0.9 seconds, no increase in delay in Middle Turnpike and Cedar Swamp Road, a 0.5 increase of delay in the intersection of Middle Turnpike and Discovery Drive, and a 1 second delay increase in the intersection of Middle Turnpike and Storrs Road, and 0.3 second increase in delay in what the Wellington Hill Road and Stores Road. So essentially, none of the expected increase are deemed significant. None of the expected increases are more than 2 seconds. So we expect that the traffic from the proposed development will not have a noticeable impact to the study area. And with that being said, I'll just pass it on to Joe.
Thank you. So that's design description. I wanted to close out with a little bit of discussion on compliance with your regulations and with state law. First, as we've explained, my client is proposing to build 52 affordable and workforce apartments as part of this development. Not seeking a fee in lieu or any other kinds of alternate compliance. They will be built and occupied. And you have from us detailed descriptions of how those units will market it, how tenants will be qualified for them, how the units will be administered, how the rents are calculated. All of that is in the affordable workforce housing plan that's attached to our statement of use. I'll have this as Exhibit C, and other related documents in there. So a short synopsis is, as I said, 52 affordable and workforce units, 39 of them are affordable, which means they are affordable to people who make 80% of the area median income. So that's 15% of the units. And then by your regulations, there will be 13 workforce units, which are defined as apartments that are affordable to people 120% of the area median income. And as I said, the detailed calculation of how you figure out what the rents will be, each one of the types of units is all laid out in the plan, so you can look at that. But a total of 20% affordable units. In compliance with your regulations and state standards, all of the affordable units will have the same design, the same finishes, same type of everything as the affordable units. So there are no obviously affordable units in the way that they are appointed. Same with their distribution in the community. It is a totally proportionate distribution and allocation throughout the building. There are affordable units in each of the 11 buildings, so there is no affordable building or affordable section. They're just interspersed throughout all the buildings and the floors, and so they will be built in sort of the same proportions and made available to the public in the same proportions as the market rate units. As I said, the rent calculations are in the plan. They are set forth by State Department of Economic and Community Development regulations, which your zoning regulations refer to. And you can see the layout, which we looked at previously there, of the allocation of the units, and percentage allocation of the affordable units is extremely similar to the percentage allocation of the market rate units. Thank you. As I think we've shown, and some of my teammates have discussed this evening, the plans and the proposal we have put before you are fully zoning compliant. The use is permitted in the RAR 90 zone. We're not seeking any zoning relief. This is the zoning compliance table from our site plan prepared by Langen. Note, as Tim O'Neill pointed out, that for setbacks, we comply with the front yard at 61 feet. The side yard requirement is 35 feet. We're providing, again, 61 or almost 61 and a half feet. Being cognizant and careful to respect that, especially the side property line, to our single-family residential neighbors on Cedar Swamp Road. For building height, we'll talk about that more in a moment, but the regulations provide the option and the commission the ability to approve up to 45 feet in height. So it's not a variance or a waiver, but it's an option that your regulations provide that we are requesting. We have talked about the open space. We are providing about 56 acres, 2.5 million square feet in total open space, where 157,000 square feet are required. And then, as also required by the RAR 90 zone, proposing to deed to transfer fee simple ownership to about 25.5 acres to the town to be maintained as open space for conservation purposes. We have complied with the density limit of 263 and proposing 261 units, plus keeping a single-family house on Cedar Swamp Road. And we already talked about how we comply with your parking requirements, so I think probably enough there. And I just want to add, it's not on this chart, but as you know, you have detailed requirements for multifamily housing, Section 10B of your zoning regulations. Jeff Smith pointed out how the development carefully complies with all the design requirements. You have standards, you have guidelines in the layout of the community, in the amenities, in the buildings themselves, and in the units. And we have carefully designed this entire development from top to bottom to comply with all of those standards. So we believe that is all met as well. Now, to the building height, I'm not going to go through the detailed chart, but that shows you what the proposed heights are for all of the buildings. Some of them go right up to 45 feet, some of them are less. All of the buildings are 3 stories or less. The mansion buildings, I believe, are 2.5 stories. But you have the provision in your regulations that we cite there that allows up to 45 feet in height, so long as the buildings are 3 stories, which they are, and so long as any enclosed space in the buildings above 35 feet is limited to non-tenant storage or areas for equipment, such as for utilities. And that is what we have designed and proposed to you. And then the commission will look at whether the buildings aesthetically conform with the physical context of neighboring properties. Respectfully submit to you that they do, and that the buildings will not adversely affect the general health, welfare, or safety of the town. Same, especially when you consider the design, the care that went into the aesthetics of the design of the buildings, but also their layout on the site, the grade change that we showed you with the cross sections, the substantial amount of forested buffer surrounding the site that really minimizes any possible impacts to neighboring properties. And last, that the extra height promotes sustainable development. This is our point. we submit to you that the height here allows us to concentrate the development on purpose in a smaller footprint, in a way that reduces sprawl and allows us to provide 2.5 million square feet of open space of some, what my client immediately recognized when they looked at this property as some high quality forested area with wetlands and trails that connects to town open space. That really is the reason why you concentrate development, and allowing the extra height makes it possible for this development to be sustainable that way. So, in your multifamily regulations, you have 3 approval considerations. Those are the 3 topic areas: overall project design, adaptability, and multi-generational housing. And this is subsection 16 near the end of the multifamily regulation. And what you say for overall project design is that the development complies with all the development standards identified in this section and with the intent of the design guide. So we've talked about that, and I believe we have shown you in our submission as a whole how we comply with that standard. Second, that this is just for multifamily dwellings, that they will be easily adapted to accommodate a different target market. And I'll pair that with the last standard of multi-generational housing. And it states that the commission must make one of 2 findings. The second one, that's a possible finding, I don't think would apply here, having to do with special needs housing. So the first one is that the plan sufficiently addresses the design standards and guidelines in the multifamily regulation, and will result in housing options that meet the needs of all residents, including singles, families, seniors, and students. And so I would submit to you, I hope that came through loud and clear in our presentation to you and in our plans that we have submitted, that is really one of the central animating goals of this proposal and the overall design. It is specifically intended to make it adaptable and attractive and useful to a variety of populations, different tenant markets, and a variety of different demographics and generations, and people of all ages and stages in life, of their careers, of their education, of their families, to working professionals to families to seniors and empty nesters and everybody in between. So that we believe that the type of development, the type of buildings, the type of units, the variety in them will achieve all of that. So I would submit to you that I think our design clears these standards quite well. That's for the commission to decide, obviously, but that's what we were intending to do. And last, your special permit criteria. This is just a summary of them. They're a little more wordy than this, but these are the key points. The first one is that the site plan approval criteria have been satisfied, and we have shown you all of that, all of the dimensional requirements, the stormwater being improved, access, and all the above. The proposed use certainly is compatible with the plan of conservation and development. You have a detailed statement by us in our statement of use. We devoted an entire page to quoting different pieces of the plan of C&D that we believe our proposal is consistent with. Next, the location, size, nature, and intensity of the use is compatible with orderly development of the town and other existing uses. Not only is it allowed by the zone, but we have designed this site to use and design this development plan to use and to develop only about a quarter of the site, as you heard, which is the portion of the site that has already been developed and disturbed and is now dilapidated and abandoned with multiple buildings, golf course, but not clear and use the rest of the site that has the valuable ecological resources on it. And we've done so in a way that preserves not only that substantial forestation, but adds a lot of landscaping and screening around the edges to make sure that we are being respectful and careful to our neighbors. And then last is that proper care has been given to the aesthetic quality, architectural design, landscaping, and that the structures will not hinder neighboring properties or diminish property values. So I think we have covered those, but those are the main things for the commission to look at. And I'll finish addressing those by going to the next and last slide, where I'll just summarize briefly what we believe are the major benefits of the development. My client seeks, and I hope we have shown you that they will provide high-quality housing options and a substantial amount for any one development that I have worked on, a substantial amount of new affordable homes, 52, a pretty sizable increase in affordable housing options to the town of Mansfield, which, as I have covered, will cater and be made available to a diverse range of. We have talked at length how we will improve the stormwater quality management, there is very little, if any, on the site now, and it will be replaced with a state-of-the-art system that makes sure it respects the natural resources on the property. The aesthetics, we believe, will be greatly improved by removing the old, dilapidated, abandoned buildings and replacing them with a really beautiful community and neighborhood. As we talked about, and as Jacob said so well at the beginning of our presentation, we heard you, and as some of you may recall on the commission, our design didn't start out the way that you are seeing it now. We made a bunch of changes to it, including to, as Tim O'Neill covered, moving further off the wetlands, reducing the retaining walls, all of that stuff, but also substantially changing the nature of the housing that we were proposing, which started off originally as more traditional apartment buildings. And as we've had more and more discussions with this commission, your staff and a lot of people in town heard that the town wanted to see more middle housing options, middle density and middle housing types of buildings like the townhomes and the mansion-style apartment buildings. So my client and their engineers and architects went back to the drawing board and redid it to put together what you see before you this evening. And to focus on middle housing and all the different generations and demographics it appeals to. So this development, of course, will invest in the community. It'll be a real shot in the arm for that property, and we hope for the corridor. And this kind of community can help serve as an economic driver to help attract new businesses to the area, new residents who become new customers to existing businesses in Mansfield. And I would just add, it doesn't say it on the slide, but if you have been listening to anybody in the business community the last couple of years, one of their biggest problems is finding labor. Nobody knows where it all went, but is finding workers. And, you know, any business will tell you their biggest cost is their labor, their workforce. And the biggest cost for the workforce is their housing. So providing affordable units and even providing more market rate units, you know, helps with the cost of housing in the town, helps bring in new residents and customers, but also will bring in new potential employees and new talent and educated folks, we believe, who could be assets to existing and new businesses in the town of Mansfield, which of course will increase the value of the property quite a bit, which I'm sure will be recognized by the tax assessor and result in increased tax revenue to the town. So that is our presentation. We thank you very much, you and your staff, for all of your time and attention and the very helpful comments we've received over these last many months, and forward to your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So if there's any questions from the commission right now, it would be a good time to ask them, although you'll have a chance. Well, and I'm sure we have people that have been waiting patiently to make comments. So are there any questions from this moment? I see Vera. Yes, Vera.
I have a couple. One is you spoke of the traffic study, mentioned the 3 major developments that would be feeding in. None of the developments ever has a traffic problem. Everything's going to be accommodated. When you put it all together, I just can't believe there isn't some effect from this additional traffic. And one of my concerns is, aren't you right across from Rolling Hills? Are you right? Are you across the street from Rolling Hills?
Sure.
The mobile home park?
Caddy corner.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Well, my concern there are 3 outlets from that park onto Middle Turnpike. How are they going to manage to get on to Middle Turnpike when there is so much traffic generated between all of the developments coming? And has the Connecticut DOT said anything about traffic lights at least to help for them to get on into the mainstream of traffic?
Can I ask Max to respond to some of those?
Yeah, so CTDOT is reviewing the traffic study, but in terms of traffic lights on, I would say the neighborhood of our site, which will be Birch Road and Cedar Swamp Road. These are very low volume roads that they do not want a traffic signal. So in order to install a traffic signal at this location, certain traffic needs to be on the road. Right now, Cedar Swamp Road, based on our data that we collected, existing traffic, we're talking about
I'm talking about Cedar Swamp Road. I'm talking about the 3 roads just opposite you, that will be coming into Middle Turnpike, that exit from the Rolling Hills onto Middle Turnpike.
Vera,
I'm talking about
Vera, they're not exactly on the other side. That's a different project. That's this is the golf course project.
Yes,
not
well,
the tree-
it's right. It isn't right across. You're right, but it's right in the same area.
It's very close. Very close. Yeah.
Yes, I realize that, but I mean, it just seems that nobody has considered that type of traffic coming into the additional traffic that's going to be added in. Anyway, that's a major concern for me. The buffering areas, I'm glad that you've beefed it up a little bit, but I didn't see, Jennifer, any response from the Conservation Commission in the packet. Have they addressed what the buffering was?
So, Vera, the Conservation Commission reviewed this through the wetlands process, and all of their comments have been incorporated in the wetlands license. The Parks and Natural Resources Committee also reviewed this property and the site quite a bit. They've been out there several times walking the property.
And didn't they have concerns?
In terms of the The buffering, they did not raise any concerns. They were focused really on the open space and making sure that that was well connected. During the wetlands license application, I believe that the Conservation Commission did have concerns, but those were also addressed by the applicant and reviewed by the peer reviewer.
Okay, then my last question has to do with stormwater management and monitoring. And I don't know much about that, but do I not understand? You will report semi-annually in perpetuity to the town for as long as you are there? Or is there a time limit on how long you have to report to the town on your efficiency of your stormwater management system?
So those are actually spelled out in our conditions of approval through the Inland Wetlands Agency, that a stormwater management inspection report will be, agreement will be made between the town and the developer prior to construction. And in the conditions, there is a twice annually report and inspection for the outlet control structures that will be sent over to the town inland wetlands agent.
For as long as you run the place?
And I'm trying to pull that up right now just to double check that for you.
I mean, don't stormwater systems sort of lose their efficiency over time? So then nobody's paying attention after 5 years or whatever, and then we're right back to disturbing our wetlands.
Part of the approval process through the inland wetlands application was to institute the inspection and operations manual of the overall stormwater management system. And in there, it spells out the inspection schedule and maintenance for each of those features on site, and reports and checks will have to be filled out and monitored throughout the lifespan of the property.
Lifespan of the property. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Sorry.
You've, in your presentation, talked about middle housing, and I'm not quite sure what that means.
It's meant to address what I think folks nationally and in Mansfield are talking about, where there's sort of a missing middle in what people have been doing in housing like lately and for a while. Whereas for multifamily, there are more higher density, additional apartment buildings, garden style apartment buildings. And then there are single family homes in single family neighborhoods, but not as much of the sort of middle density and middle in size kinds of residential buildings coming on the market, like townhouses, or we believe the mansion style apartment buildings, which are several units in a big building that's meant to look like a large house. So that's what we're talking about there. It's sort of a price point, a design point, and a density point that's more in the middle, not far to one end or the other.
And since you brought up price point, do you have any kind of a rental structure at this point for these various units?
Affordable ones, it's in the plan, but I don't know if you about them.
Well, the affordable is a percentage of the average income in Mansfield. But what are affordable or just regular to the public? You have a rental structure.
So we're at least 2 years out from renting right now, and there's a lot of different projects going on right now, so we're not 100% sure what market rate rentals we're going for. In town, if you look around at market comps, they're averaging $800 to $1,500 per bed. It's a wide range, depending on the type of structure. And also, first question for middle housing also has to do with height. So if you look out, a couple of new developments are going up. They're 5 stories. We're keeping it at 3 stories and below.
Will the one bedrooms, I noticed that some of them had study. Will those be allowed to be converted into a bedroom?
So those have no windows or light and air, so they can't be used as a bedroom. They also don't have closets.
Well, as someone who's been involved with rentals in town for many, many years, it's amazing where people will stick a bed if it'll defray costs.
Yeah, I mean, our intention of the home offices is to provide home offices and maybe a room for a young child, like a baby and a crib. Not our intention to rent out a home office as a bedroom.
So just if I could interject, this development, just as all of our multifamily developments, will be subject to the definition of family and occupancy. So it's basically three unrelated, no more than three unrelated individuals may live in a given, dwelling.
But the parking spaces, traffic is based on the number.
That's
And
correct, yep.
if someone says, well, yeah, I'll rent you this.
I'm sorry,
office
can the
space.
speaker please identify themselves? We can't tell who is speaking.
Oh, Larry, if you,
Turn on your mic.
you have to speak right in your,
My mic isn't on?
Oh,
Yeah,
now,
No,
now
we
it's
can
working.
hear you. We just didn't know who you were because we can't see the speaker.
Oh, that's right, because we're very small in that picture, you see.
Luann, my name is Larry Ross.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay.
Bill, did you have something?
Yeah. First, I watched you give your impressive presentation to the Affordable Housing Committee, and I noticed that they requested a slight change in the mix of units. Were you able to accommodate their request? Okay. And number two, I, like Vera, feel that the traffic is going to be increased probably fairly significantly by all of the development we're going to see. And darn it, the bus stop is on the wrong side of the road. I wished it was on the other side of the road, and you're going to have to, I think visually there's quite a long stretch of straight road there that I don't think will get people mowed down in your crosswalk. We put students in there. These students are dumb sometimes, walking in the roads. And I'd be kind of concerned about it. I like the idea of having the flashing lights and everything, except when I'm a driver. But I think that's going to be a concern.
Well, those are all great points and well taken. I think, and Max can explain it better, but I think what his study shows, and he would explain, is that we are aware of what other development is happening in the area, what's been approved, what's coming down the pike. And Max and his colleagues take all of that into account in looking at what they call the no-build scenario for 2026. So they've already estimated approximately when, if approved, our development would be done. So they look all the way out to that year. They apply the standard background, they call it, increase in traffic rate that just happens. And then they also looked at all those developments and their traffic studies and what their trip projection was, and the way DOT is looking at the intersections. They incorporated a whole lot of data into knowing, as best we can with what we know now, including what's going on with development that's been approved and it will be happening, what's the situation going to be in 2026, and then how, if at all, will our traffic affect it. And so what he showed you does all of that. And on the crosswalk, I mean, that's a totally fair concern. And it wasn't our original suggestion, but in the crosswalk, we got the comment from the town's peer reviewer and my client, and our design team has agreed to propose it to state DOT. But that's ultimately where the decision is, because it's State Route 44. They'll decide if they want a crosswalk there. And I think we're as confident as you can be that they're going to take a real hard look at it and be careful about evaluating the safety of it. And yeah, that does need to be looked at very carefully on a road like that has some of the speeds that it has.
Was the traffic study conducted during the school year?
Yes, sir.
Yep. It was done in March. Max, do you have the date?
Yeah, March. We collect the data on March 1st, 2023.
Not spring break. It's also not winter, where there's also less traveling.
Correct.
Thank you.
The only day that was like early closing for school was the 15th of March and 17th of March. Then every other day on March was pretty good.
Any other questions? Okay, so we can move on to...
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify one point for Member Ward. The conditions of approval for the stormwater management BMPs, there are inspections that will take place for the first 3 years for the outfall locations from the stormwater management plan. The operation and maintenance manual will take place in reporting privately in perpetuity. There's also a second condition of approval in the inland wetlands for the stormwater maintenance agreement, which must be developed by the applicant and submitted to the town engineer and inland wetlands agents for a review and approval. So the inspections that will be delivered to the town are specifically related to the outfall locations and are provided twice yearly. And the stormwater maintenance agreement is yet to be developed and agreed on and approved by the town. The private in perpetuity inspections will happen for the lifespan of the project. Just wanted to make sure that was clarified. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, those of you who know me know that I like to take a break every 2 hours. So we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. So why don't we take a 5-minute break? Everyone who wants to talk can talk. We'll take another break in 2 hours. We'll go as many 2 hours as we do. Everyone will have a chance to talk. So let's get back together at 8 o'clock.
Recording stopped.